The top Republican in the Colorado House says he won't resign and won't end his run for Congress after news broke today that he was arrested for drunk driving and a weapons charge 2 years ago.
Why didn't you tell us about it?
Well, it's a personal matter, and I didn't think there was a reason to.
The demand for mental health help in Denver is overwhelming providers.
Typically, we turn away as many patients as we can actually see.
They speak for the Creek. A mountain town appoints legal guardians to protect their watershed. And when siblings are separated in the foster care system, one nonprofit keeps them connected. We're supporting their work tonight on Next. The top Republican in the Colorado House, a candidate for Congress, is on probation right now for drunk driving and a weapons charge. House Minority Leader Mike Lynch and the Colorado State Patrol managed to keep his arrest in 2022 quiet until today, when it was first reported by the Denver Post. Marshall Zelling is along with additional details on this. Marshall, the arrest report you've seen shows that Lynch was going 90 miles an hour down I-25, blood alcohol more than double the legal limit, and then during the stop, Lynch reaches for his gun.
It was a gun in his pocket. According to the Colorado State Patrol trooper who pulled him over and wrote the report, the trooper had to pin Lynch's hand to his leg as Lynch held the gun in his pocket. The trooper told him numerous times to stop and not move, said Lynch released his grip, put his hands in the air. I asked the House Minority Leader about that part of his DUI traffic stop.
Do you remember being told not to reach for weapons? They saw a pocket knife, and then you admitted having a gun. You were told not to reach for the weapons, and then you reached for your gun.
I'm not certain that that's the order that went in. I think it was oh crap, I forgot. I've got a gun in my pocket, and so I was trying to be proactive with the officer.
Here is what the Colorado State Patrol trooper wrote in the DUI report. I feared for my safety as Mr. Lynch manipulated a firearm after I had clearly told him not to touch the knife in his other pocket. He told me he had a little .380 and said it's not a big deal. I informed him that pulling a gun out of our pocket when in contact with the police was in fact a big deal, and people get shot that way.
Did you hope it would be kept secret?
I was realistic that, this would come out someday and I would face it like I'm doing right now. And that's what leaders do. They, make mistakes, pick themselves up, become better for it, and move on.
You got pulled over for DUI and you had a gun on you. Didn't you expect that to make the news?
Eventually, yeah.
But not by your own accord?
Correct. There's two ways you can do it. You can tell or you not tell. I flipped the coin and ended up with the not tell option.
Now I need to ask, what else are you not telling voters and the public that we may find out as you run for Congress?
Yeah, well, I think this search was in an effort to find all that, and I think this is the only thing you're going to find on me. I mean, I don't think that. I know that for a fact. So.
This search refers to him running for Congress, and he thinks there's some opposition research being done against him to put this out there. The CSP report also notes that the Colorado State Patrol Public Information Officer was notified about 25 minutes after the traffic stop. We asked CSP why the Public Information Officer and the department did not make this public. CSP tells me tonight it's standard procedure to notify the Public Information Officer when an incident would attract potential media attention, but not necessarily a policy to proactively tell the public unless asked. Kyle.
Policy that worked out pretty well for the minority leader, who, as if he was playing Who Wants to Be a Millionaire drunk on the side of the highway, asked to phone a friend.
The guy's name is Mike Hahn. He's a lobbyist at the state capitol. He's the conduit, basically, between lawmakers and the Colorado State Patrol. And I asked why he made that reference during the traffic stop. And he said it was so he wouldn't find out about it from someone else as a courtesy call to let him know that this person who interacts between the two agencies, hey, I want to give you a heads up, this happened.
Pretty astonishing. Flip a coin to figure out if you're going to tell voters. I think that there's a chance that this propels him to the front of the GOP field for that congressional race. Marshall, thank you. So Denver's going to resume booting migrant families with kids out of shelters if they stay too long. That was an older policy that was suspended for the winter cold, but now the Johnson administration says shelter space is just too limited. So starting next, Denver's going to allow migrant families with kids to stay in city-run facilities for 42 days. That's up from the previous limit of 37 days. The city says it's also going to go back to strictly enforcing rules on who qualifies to be in a city-run shelter. Migrants must have what's known as an A number. It's an alien registration number. It just means that they've checked in with the feds. The federal government knows that they're here. And they must arrive in Denver within 30 days of crossing the border. Starting February 5th, people who don't meet those qualifications will be discharged from the city's shelters. Denver is currently sheltering nearly 4,500 migrants, and Mayor Mike Johnson has estimated the city will spend $180 million on that sheltering effort this year. The mayor's repeatedly called on the federal government to provide additional funding and to change the rules for work authorization so that migrants can go to work legally sooner. The mayor is scheduled to meet with White House leaders later this week. Colorado's public schools are seeing their lowest enrollment numbers in a decade. The State Department of Education says enrollment statewide dropped by 1,800 kids this year. It's not a huge year-to-year drop. It's less than 1%. But after multiple years of declines, we're now at the lowest enrollment since 2013. Biggest impact is seen in the early grades, pre-K through first. The state attributes most of the decline to demographic trends, lower birth rates, the cost of living spike in Colorado. But they also acknowledge they're seeing an increase in families choosing alternative means of education like homeschool.
Since we are seeing those declines at those younger grades, that's probably reflective in many cases of that declining birth rate, but it's also could be related to that homeschooling, that there may be more prevalence of homeschooling in the younger grades just because it's maybe easier for parents to homeschool at lower grade levels.
One major exception to the declining enrollment statewide is Denver Public Schools. The state's largest district grew this year. The Department of Education attributes that to the enrollment of hundreds of migrant students. Getting into mental health services in Denver is incredibly difficult these days. There are people being turned away, a lot of them. Our Kelly Rinke looks at what's being done about that.
Sometimes when we're providing mental health care, it's like a little bit like drinking from a fire hose.
The demand for help is too much to keep up.
Typically, we turn away as many patients as we can actually see.
Dr. Christian Thurston sees this challenge firsthand as the director of behavioral health services at Denver Health.
The main finding is that people have difficulty accessing behavioral health care. They wait on average 27 days to get treatment.
This finding wasn't a surprise in a report from Denver's health department. The agency learned the high demand for services is something providers can't meet.
So on the provider side, the assessment indicated many needs. The primary needs related to recruiting, burnout, and retention concerns.
DDPHE went over the report with city council members on Wednesday and discussed plans to hopefully fix the problem.
So we have 20 contracts that will be addressing behavioral health specifically.
The contracts will add up to more than $10 million in federal funding. Denver Health says it plans to use that money for a detox program to help young people who overdose on fentanyl.
We used to just discharge them with some outpatient referrals. Now we can admit them for a few days, stabilize them.
Getting people the help they need requires funding and staff.
Staffing is a big part of it. I think funding to sort of help stay competitive in the job market is adjacent to that.
Wellpower, right? Like other providers, saw employees leave during COVID.
Yes, and unfortunately, they haven't been coming back.
Insufficient staff was the top problem impacting services for nearly half of the providers surveyed in DDPHE's report. Helping people is getting harder to do.
The need is enormous. I think it's always been enormous, but we're just kind of now recognizing it more and more.
Denver Health this month said the cost for uncompensated care continues to go up, and it's forcing them to close at least 15 beds for substance abuse treatment and mental health care.
So I imagine they're looking for all kinds of alternative ways to see people in crisis ASAP.
Yeah, so like Wellpower, for example, they're looking at essentially a virtual urgent care. People can sign up and immediately see a therapist while they wait for additional services.
All right, Kelly Rinke, thank you. A relationship with a sibling is the longest relationship that most people will have in their whole lives, which is why it's so heartbreaking when siblings get separated in the foster care system. That's why this week's Word of Thanks microgiving campaign supports Elevating Connections. That nonprofit helps brothers and sisters separated in foster care stay connected through twice monthly meetups and activities and a longer summer camp each year. Some frequent chances for them to stay in each other's lives, stay present despite whatever other challenges they're facing. And Elevating Connections also has arts programs for kids in foster care to help them find their voice and develop meaningful friendships they can carry through life. Think back to one of your favorite memories with a brother or a sister. Almost certainly, It involves a shared experience, something you did together. That's what siblings in the foster care system can miss out on, those years of relationship-building shared experiences. So that's precisely what Elevating Connections provides. Scan the QR code on your screen or text the word THANKS to 303-871-1491 to get the link to donate. I'll never ask you to give to a cause that I don't support myself, and you've proven that even $5 helps, so I'll match the first 50 folks to come through with $5. And you can now simplify your giving with a monthly donation to the Word of Thanks Fund. Nearly 800 of you have signed up already. You put in your information once, and then your monthly donation is automatically split among all the nonprofits that we feature each month. Use the same QR code or text to get there to support Elevating Connections this week and every week's Word of Thanks.
Nature has inherent rights just as humans have rights.
And so the town of Nederland is giving its waterways a seat at the table, appointing legal guardians to speak for the creeks. And Denver Public Schools fights a parent's legal demand that they put up straight pride displays. Denver Public Schools is asking a judge to toss out a lawsuit that claims the district is discriminating against straight students because they allow pride flags, but not straight pride flags, whatever those are. A parent at Slavens Elementary wanted $3 million from the district, claiming that the DPS system is discriminating against his straight kids. That parent says Slavens has small rainbow flags outside classrooms, and he's tried for a year to have a heterosexual pride flag added to those displays. In their request to have the lawsuit dismissed, DPS points to a 2020 school board resolution supporting the pride flag displays as part of a larger effort to be inclusive of LGBTQ students specifically. District argues that as a government entity, they do not have to, quote, give airtime to all views. I don't know what a straight pride flag is, and I'm afraid to Google it. I will make you talk about that, Lauren Robinson. Why don't we talk about the weather? Why don't we talk about the mess that has lingered in the mountains since, what, Saturday or Sunday? It was great skiing up there, but the getting home was suboptimal.
Yeah, I bet the mountains were great, and I bet the roads were terrible, and we're going to continue to see poor travel conditions as we still have several winter storm alerts in effect for the high country. Right now at DIA, though, we're dry but cloudy, 34 degrees. We have winds coming in from the north-northeast at 5 miles per hour, actually making it feel closer to 30 degrees out there. Now, as we take a look at our HD Doppler radar, we do have a system continuing to push in from the Pacific Northwest, and that was bringing those snow showers across the high country and western slope. Now, those snow showers are going to die down as we get into the overnight hours. We are still seeing some minor flurries across the northern portions of the foothills, but early tomorrow, those snow showers are going to ramp back up along with those gusty winds. So we do still have winter storm warnings in red and winter weather advisories in teal, where we could see a couple feet more of snow in areas that have already seen feet of snow. This will be paired with gusting winds up to around 65 miles per hour. And as we know, that creates that blowing snow, reduced visibility, hazardous travel out on the roadways. Backcountry areas aren't safe either. We have several avalanche warnings in effect through Thursday, so you'll want to stay out of those backcountry areas due to an avalanche warning of high. That's going to be a level 4 out of 5 again through Thursday. Now, in addition to all of that snow, we do still have some flash flood watches in effect. This is going to be central river basin areas where we're going to watch for possible ice jams to clog some things up and possibly cause some localized flooding. We're going to watch for these possibilities through Saturday. Now, as we go through the next few days, we're going to see some up and down temperatures. We're going to see another day in the middle to upper 40s tomorrow across Denver, but then a weak cold front is going to push in by Friday, dropping our temperatures into the lower 30s. That front's not going to last too long. By the weekend, we're going to be in the middle 40s, low 50s Sunday, and we're going to stay slightly above average through the start of our next work week.
I think it's more about enhancing communication than it is enforcing laws.
A small community that's not afraid to do things differently has now appointed legal guardians for the creek that runs through town. People of Winter Park, you're free. Within the last 10-15 minutes, CDOT announced that Berthoud Pass has finally reopened. It's been closed since Sunday because of avalanches. That slide on Sunday caught a couple of cars, forced the road to close. It's certainly not the worst snowstorm that Berthoud Pass has ever seen. So what in the world made this a 4-day closure? CDOT says that they've been dealing with persistent strong winds up there. Those are loading snow up on slopes that could slide, and sure enough, they've come down a few times, smaller avalanches that have undone the progress being made to reopen the pass. But now again, Berthoud Pass is open. So people who are in the Winter Park area, Granby, so forth, won't have to take that long detour through Kremling, then down through Silverthorne to get back to Denver. That was a miserable drive. Heard of it taking folks 7 or 8 hours to get back to the Front Range from Winter Park. Netherlands is giving its waterways a voice in future debates about development and environmental protection. The town has appointed actual legal guardians to advocate on behalf of their stretch of Boulder Creek.
We depend on our natural resources for so many things. And when we're making decisions, that should be part of the picture.
Alan Apt is one of 2 legal guardians appointed by Netherlands Board of Trustees earlier this month. He says his role is to ensure an open line of communication. The guardians will hear concerns from the public, they'll research the health of the creek's ecosystem, and they'll present to the town boards that are in charge of things like development and environmental policy. This is an extension of a resolution Netherlands passed in 2021. It recognized that the Boulder Creek watershed should have its own legal rights. Environmentalists have been pushing similar resolutions recognizing the quote-unquote rights of nature across Colorado.
They're sort of soft legal instruments in that they're not trying to, fight in the court over the rights of nature, but rather embrace this idea that nature has rights and should have a voice in local communities as part of the community fabric moving forward.
Ridgeway, Grand Lake, and Lyons have all passed rights of nature resolutions for local waterways. Netherlands is the first to appoint actual guardians. A pair of pants, not those or these, are the most Colorado thing we've seen today. And your feedback next. Thank you. A hard reminder of our cold weather streak is the most Colorado thing we saw today. You know what they say, if you're cold, they're cold. Bring them inside. Don't leave your pants out on the front walk. Lisa Sin shot these photos in Denver, a pair of frozen jeans so stiff they could just walk away on their own. All right, that says Colorado to me, at least the last couple days of it. Send things like that our way. Email next@9news.com. When siblings are separated in the foster care system, it can lead to a disconnect for life or tension that can boil over when those siblings reunite as adults. The nonprofit Elevating Connections keeps separated siblings in frequent contact with each other to preserve their bonds. They organize twice-monthly activities and a summer camp so that siblings can stay connected and be a part of each other's lives, even if they can't live together in foster care. Scan the QR code on your screen or text the word thanks to 303-871-1491, and you'll see an option to give just this week or to make things easier by giving monthly to every Word of Thanks nonprofit we feature. Your feedback about the disclosure that GOP Minority Leader Mike Lynch was arrested for drunk driving and having a weapon while he was intoxicated in his car. Chris says he will likely be popular, sorry to say. I think if you were to look at the state of the presidential election or even the representative from Western Colorado who's now moving to Eastern Colorado, criminal history or criminal charges is certainly no impediment to succeeding in the GOP. Wesley says, I'm sure the Democrats never do anything wrong and you wouldn't report it anyway. If you know one who got popped for a DUI and a gun, give me a shout.